we all have joy within us. And it's
Yes.
not like we have to find it or search for it. It's there. All we have to do is, I think, sometimes have that self-awareness that it is our choice. It's easy to get caught up, believe me, because I was there in that victim mentality where I was like, dang, man, how did my life get screwed up this bad? How did I end up in a place like this? Like, I have lost everything. I have $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. I lost my business. I have a lien on my house. I'm stuck in a hospital bed.
Hello, Thrive with Sharon community. It is so good to be back again this week. And I have an incredible friend and guest today that I have actually known for, I think, like 3.5, 4 years. It's been a long time that we've been connected. And I'm so excited that we've finally been able to work it within our own calendars to have this conversation today. I have Amberly Lago today on the show, which I am so honored and blessed and just so grateful to have. And Amberly is a peak performance coach, a TEDx speaker, a podcaster, and a leading expert in the field of resilience and transformation. Obviously, one of the reasons why we connect and we have so many great things to be able to talk about. But she is the best-selling author of True Grit and Grace and the founder of the Unstoppable Life Mastermind, which I actually just participated in this last and first leg of the Unstoppable Life Mastermind, which was incredible. And she builds grit and she inspires hope and she fuels passion and uncovers your own superpower of resilience. So I am so grateful to have you here, Amberly, and I cannot wait for this conversation.
Oh, Sharon, I adore you and I feel honored to be here. I love your show and have enjoyed binging the episodes. And I do feel better when I listen to your episode. We were talking about that before, we hit record, and it's like all that you're doing to show people how they can truly thrive. You're such a light in the world. So I'm honored to be here and connect with you and your amazing audience. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now welcome. I mean, as though you didn't already, have a huge seat at the table in this community. I now am so excited that everyone gets to see part of who my community is and that you are a really, really big part of all of this. So welcome to the community. And I want everybody to really get to know you. One of the things that, the interesting thing is that when you and I connected, it was when you were probably writing this on your notebook, this book, right? So it was so inspiring to me to even know that you were writing this book, because I'm sure you know that, many of us have a book in us, and I'm in the process of writing now actually 2 books, which is usually what ends up happening, right? We start with one and then it splits off into 2, but I absolutely loved this book because it really showed so much of what your own internal archetype of who you were from a very, very young age, and how that really put you on this trajectory into some incredible mindset and working with your mind from a very, very young age. I mean, even when you wrote about when you were a young girl and you would dance on the tables and entertain people, right? To me, that's something that's not in my wheelhouse.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much for reading my book. And yes, I met you when I was writing it, and it was hard. I'm not going to lie. It was hard to write a book, but the passion that I had to share what I have learned along the way far outweighed like the obstacles and the fear and the self-doubt, because there was plenty of that. And so I wrote and I there were some things that were hard to write about. The dancing on the tabletops was fun. And I think that looking back at that moment, that is where I found my joy. And, that was the restaurant in town, was the Dairy Queen. And so I don't know why my mom even allowed for me, as like, I was 5, 6, 7 years old, going with all the people from the band and the football players and everything. And they would turn the jukebox on and I would dance on the tabletops. And that brought me such joy because I could see how people would smile and clap and it brought them such happiness to see me dancing and doing, tap steps and stuff on the table. And I just did an event a couple of weeks ago and I went on the stage. They played music and I was not planning on this, but they're like, we're going to play some music before, on your walk on. And I'm like, okay. And I get out there and the music lasted a little bit longer than I thought. And I was like, well, I'm going to dance. This is fun. And so I just started dancing silly. I don't know what kind of moves I was doing, but I think so often some of the things that if people are having a hard time finding their purpose or their calling, if they think about the things that brought them joy when they were, 7, 8 years old, it's still so connected to what their purpose and their calling is now. And for me, I love connecting with people. I love when I see that light go on. I love fanning their flames. I love when I see them reach their goals. And so it's still, I feel like sometimes I still have that little girl that loved to tap dance on the Dairy Queen tabletops inside me. And so that little girl came out on stage a couple of weeks ago. And so I would say to your amazing audience, like if you're struggling going, wow, what is my calling? What do I want to do? What did you love to do when you were that age? And I think sometimes, life gets busy. We get on this hamster wheel, but it's so important to really stop and take a look at your life, see what your values are, what your priorities are, who you are and where you want to go. Because I don't know about you, but I feel like it's just going so fast. And I always heard that when you get older, it just gets faster. And I'm like, is that true? Or maybe I'm just having so much fun that it feels like it's going faster, but I feel like it's also fast.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I love that you touch on finding your joy and and also on finding your destiny. And one of the things that I think is part of what is this deep calling in our hearts is to find what our true destiny is. But we really don't know what our destiny is until we find our chosen path, right? When was that for you? Like, I know that you look back retrospectively and you see all of these like markers of where you found joy. I mean, I think about when you picked up and you decided you were going to go to Los Angeles and be a dancer. And like, I just, all of these things that you've done, it seems like you just did it, right? You didn't necessarily say, at least how I see it, how I've come to know you, is that you weren't like, I'm on my path right now. This is my destiny, and it's like, so I'm going to make this choice. It's just like, you just find this, you just, something goes boop and you go straight on it. Right. So when did you actually get to the point in your life where you knew that you were actually doing your destiny? You were living your destiny.
I think that everything changes so much. And I don't think that it was that I was like searching for this certain path or like I didn't think of it as destiny. I was just young and naive and full of passion and just a lot of grit. And, I wanted, as much as I wanted to be a professional dancer, and I worked so hard, and I was at the dance studio, I got out of school early so I could go to the dance studio and was there till 9:00 at night every night on school nights, and then was still a straight A student. So I worked hard, but I also wanted to get out of Texas. I wanted to escape the situation I was in because my stepfather was sexually abusing me. Now, at the time I graduated from high school, that abuse had stopped when I'd finally like stood up to him. But I think sometimes we need to have that passion and that calling that we want to do something. And I wanted more than anything to be a professional dancer and dance on MTV and those music videos and all that. And I just wanted to be in Hollywood. And I also had that pain behind me that was like pushing me, like, this is so uncomfortable. There's no turning back. So that was actually a blessing for me. And I think sometimes we're in a situation, it's hard and it's tough, and we don't know what good could come out of such a horrible, challenging time. But I will say that, I knew that from a very young age that I could take care of myself because I stood up to my stepfather and fought him off. And then he never touched me again. And I was a little bitty thing. But I was pushed to the point of no more, this cannot go on. And then that taught me that I could take care of myself. When I moved to California, I had saved up $1,200. I had worked 4 different jobs to save up that money, packed up my little Suzuki Samurai that I had bought. And, my car broke down on the way to LA. Luckily, there was a recall on that part because I didn't have the money to fix the car, and made it to LA. And I remember staying in this tiny, seedy little motel. There were cigarette burns on the wall, and I was just grateful to be there. And, I had lots of rejections, and I learned to let those rejections roll off my back. And I would look at it as, okay, every no that I get, I'm one step closer to a yes. And a month later, I was on MC Hammer's music video, Can't Touch This. And I was like, well, I have arrived. This is it. And then, like I said, things can change. And I don't think we can have a good idea of what we want to do and maybe what our destiny is. But I've realized we are more than ever, I'm not in control. Everything can change in the blink of an eye. And what I've learned is to really, we were talking about joy earlier, to really enjoy the whole journey, that it's not about reaching this final point, because I do not feel like I have arrived now. I'm like, there's so much more. I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
And I'm really taking time to find the joy in the journey, and really pausing more to celebrate the small victories along the way, and see that, Sharon, just seeing your show, like, it makes me so excited. When you launched your show, I was like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. When I see people that I love win, that's like, there's nothing like that. And so I love that I get to go and travel again, especially, I think our perspective was shifted a little bit, and I hope everybody's perspective was shifted a little bit, and we can have more gratitude for the little things in life. But I think that if we work hard and we stay grounded, and we are kind along the way, and we take time to focus and ask ourselves, well, what do we want to do? Who are we? Where do we want to go? Because it's easy to get lost a little bit, to get distracted. Shiny objects come along and you're like, oh, well, maybe that's the way. And it's like, no, check in with yourself, because there's always going to be distractions. There's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be roadblocks. But if you have, if you're grounded and, you take time to find your joy, you're going to be able to get through those things. And there are tools to get through adversity too. And boy, have I learned a lot over the year about that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Before we get into that though, I want to say, speaking about joy is one of my passions as well. And there's such a difference between happiness and joy. And I really truly believe that sometimes we confuse seeking pleasure over discovering and finding your joy. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that we all have joy within us, and it's
Yes.
not like we have to find it or search for it. It's there. All
Mhm.
we have to do is, I think, sometimes have that self-awareness that it is our choice. It's easy to get caught up, believe me, because I was there in that victim mentality where I was like, dang, man, how did my life get screwed up this bad? How did I end up in a place like this? Like, I have lost everything. I have $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. I lost my business. I have a lien on my house. I'm stuck in a hospital bed. I was like, my joy's gone.
Mm.
And I realized it was never gone. It was just a little bit smaller. It wasn't lit up as much. And so I think we have to find ways to ignite that flame with
Yeah.
us. And I think how we do that is, first of all, what really helped me was being of service to other people, however I could, and finding ways for me to have some purpose and have
Mm.
something to do and have connection. I'd started
Mm.
like shutting myself down and I had lost connection. And it's so
Yeah.
funny that we're talking about this because I have to show you right now. I had stickers made that say find joy for the journey. And so we're talking
Oh,
about this right now. But if I think that we're not meant to do hard things alone. And I think that we all want to feel seen, heard, and understood. And I know what helped me find that joy was when I could connect with other people who understood what I was going through on
oh,
some level. And I think that joy inside of us is, I mean, I know some people don't like to hear the word God, but God is that to
mm.
me, that is
Yes.
the presence of God in all of us, whether you like to call it God, spirit, universe,
Yes.
we all have that light within us, and it's finding ways to light it up. So whether that's going and helping someone, whether that's
Mm.
having a place to be or something to do, and it doesn't have to be, look, my main purpose when I was stuck in a hospital bed was my purpose today is I have to get up and be a mom, a good mom as best as I can, and make sure I get my daughter to daycare so I can go to physical therapy.
Yeah.
That was like that small step. And then it got to where I would have bigger goals and a higher purpose.
Yeah.
I would level it up and level it up.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to I can't imagine getting through some of the darkest days of my life if I didn't have something to offer, something
Mm.
to do. And this sounds, I've had people go, well, how could you be of service when you were in the hospital, stuck in a
Yeah.
bed?
I want to touch on that too, because for some of the audience and some of our Thrive community, they may not know why you were in the hospital. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving us a little bit of a background of how you ended up.
Yeah. Well, I, have been in the fitness industry. I had a successful, thriving business doing infomercials. I was sponsored by Nike. I
Mhm.
was nationally recognized as a coach.
Mhm.
And in fact, the day of I had an accident, I had ran 11 miles in my best time. And I had just filmed an exercise video the day before. And I remember telling my husband the day before, like, oh, I don't, I told him I would do this exercise video and I just don't, I'm so tired. I don't feel like it. And I remember after my accident, I was like, I am so glad that I showed up for that, because I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that again. But coming home from work on my Harley, I was taken out, like hit T-boned by an SUV, thrown 30 feet. And my leg was completely crushed. Femoral artery was severed. Luckily, there were paramedics right down the street. I had a guy make a tourniquet on my leg right away. He saved my life because I could have bled out right there on the street. rushed to the hospital, and I was put in induced coma. And the last thing I remember was before they put me out, was my husband running around the ER, and this nurse leaning over me, telling me, we're going to give you something to make you feel all better. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up with tubes down my throat, can't talk, and being told they're going to amputate my leg. So for someone like me, who has been my whole life a dancer, and that's where I found my joy, was to dance. And then I found my joy in my endorphins, and my therapy was to run and exercise, to wake up and say, we're going to amputate your leg. You have a 1% chance. I was like, that can't be. I was like, okay, there's a chance. You said 1%. So that means there's still a chance. And I think sometimes all we need is that little bit of hope. That 1% was my glimmer of hope that got me through 34 surgeries and months in the hospital. And let me tell you, I was doing everything I could to tap into my joy, to tap into my grit, to connect with people, to be of service, to still move my body. And people were like, you were exercising in the bed? And I was like, yeah, the doctors thought I was crazy, because I was like, I need a pull-up bar installed over my bed. I need some dumbbells, because I needed to feel like I was moving in the right direction. And I wanted to do anything I could to be better and stronger mentally, physically, spiritually.
Yes.
And so it was a lot, but a lot of what I've learned through being an athlete, I think, carried over through my recovery and helped me get through some of those hard times.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Movement changes timelines, literally changes timelines, right? So when you can move, no matter how you are able to move, you literally change timelines. So you were doing that for yourself when you were in your bed. And that's, I mean, wow. Okay. First of all, every time that I hear you or watch the recap of what happened with your accident, no matter how many times I hear it, my heart just, because I love you so much, it gets me, right? Because I'm right there with you as you're discussing it and as you're talking about it. But the thing that I think is so incredible is the fact that many people, when they hear, right, a doctor, medical professionals say to them, this is what we've got to do. We place sometimes these people in a position of being like God, right? So they've gone to school, they have all of this experience behind them and whatever. And to be of the mindset where you challenge that because of 1%. I mean, I think if they said 0.5%, you still would have gone for it, knowing you, right? But, I think that that's so important, because that really speaks into how much our minds can really create our reality. And that when you take the vision and the mind and the mental mindset and then take action. So you were moving yourself through all of that as you were going through your therapy and your rehabilitation, and not even knowing what the outcome was going to be. You didn't even know. I mean, because at that point,
it was like one step at a time.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get through one day and just thinking, okay, let me get through today and see if I can still keep my leg for today. Because every day was a surgery, then a day of recovery, then another surgery, then a day of recovery. And so it was like going to war, and waking up and never knowing how much pain you were going to be in. And, one surgery, I woke up and my pain was so bad, they couldn't control it. So my body was going into shock and like convulsions. And the doctors were saying, we might have to put her back in a coma. And I was saying, no, don't put me in a coma. I will get this pain under control. Let me just try. Let me breathe. Let me, give me some more medicine, but please don't put me under again. And so talk about mindset. It was, and I think that, being a dancer and an athlete really developed that, and years of training and track where I learned to push through pain. And, my coach would be like, get off the track to throw up, and then you keep running. Or before track meets, I'd be so nervous that I would throw up before I would, and then the gun would go off and I'd run. They shoot the gun before the race, and I'd run and I'd be fine. But it really, looking back at all those times and dancing and with your toes bleeding and point shoes and
Yep.
torn muscles and strains, and I learned to really push. But once I got out of the hospital and I was pushing so hard, I was really pushing myself, not in a good way. I was ignoring the pain, not listening to my body. And what I've had to learn is we have to listen to our body. We have to listen to our soul. We have to listen to our heart. And I was shutting down, numbing out, just trying to get back to I wanted to be back to my old life. And I learned that resilience isn't really about going back. And there might be some people watching today, or maybe you're just driving and you're listening to this today, and you might be feeling like, well, when things get back to normal, then I'll take action. Or when things get back, then I'll do this thing or that thing. And there's no turning back. It starts now. Resilience is starting now. Thriving.
Yes.
You have to start now. It's about adapting. It's about accepting what your new normal is and saying, well, what can I do next? And it's so much about what you focus on. So I think it's really important to be, your mindset, what you focus on. And there are a lot of people. I remember, I had a friend when the pandemic hit, and she's like, well, I'm going to wait to train clients again, because she trained them in person. I'm going to wait until this is all over, then I'll start a business again. And I'm like, you can't wait. You don't know how long this is going to go on. You better get a Zoom account. You better start training them online. You better prepare. I was just like, no, you got to take action.
Yes.
So I think that yes, to the right mindset, but you have to take action. You can't sit around and think or hope. Or I did that. I waited until there was a cure for CRPS. I kept waiting for the right medication, waiting for the right doctor or the right specialist. You can't wait. You have to, you can listen to doctors, and, I had some amazing doctors, but you have to be your own advocate. In life in general, not with just your health, within life, you have to take action.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that you have always, as long as I've known you, and as far as I've, in researching and reading your book and all of that stuff, you've just always had that action piece, right? There's just this, it's just innate. It's not necessarily easy. I know it's not easy, but it's innate. And you say yes to it, which is like what you said, it's your soul, it's part of your soul. And I think that, it's very clear in knowing you that you are in touch with this piece that is intrinsically you, right? And I love that you allow your closer friends, as well as your own community, to really see into that piece. But conversely, right, someone like you, and, in my work, I work with a lot of exceptional performers, right? So people who are exceptional in their own careers, in their own path, whether it's professional athletes or, musicians or whatever it might be, artists. And they found this piece of their soul, and they just want to find ways to just explode it out into the universe. And that comes from action, right? But conversely, that can also be a little bit of a challenge, because like you just mentioned, you alluded to it, and I want to tap into this, which is we also need to allow time to rest, right? And you've been really very public about the fact that you're still figuring that out and you're actually scheduling it, right?
Oh, yeah. It's the hardest thing for me to do. And, you know, if you're listening and you're going, oh, well, it's easy for her to take action. It's not. Sometimes it's hard. It's scary. I do things scared, and each time I do, it builds confidence and courage, and that gets knocked right out of me and I have to start over. I had a real tough week last week. I did a horrible job at a huge conference, like a big virtual conference I was doing, and anything and everything that could go wrong technically went wrong. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Sometimes things don't go as planned. Right. And after that, I was talking about rest. I was on crutches because the CRPS, the nerve disease that I have, had really flared up. And so I was just like, wow, I need to just pull back, do a little rest and rejuvenating and recovering, and stop beating myself up about it, and what I've learned is the easiest way and the quickest way to shift your mindset about rest, if you're a high performer, is that I look at rest as part of my business strategy. Like, this is part of my plan. I am doing this so I can make my business boom even more, because, if we could, if we just, we have to charge our phones. And I know people say that all the time, but it's true. There's some days that I charge my phone or my car more than I charge myself. And I'm like, oh, my car needs to be charged. Why don't I take a little time and charge myself? And so I've become really, really, more than ever in my whole life, really serious about this whole resting thing, and more talking about it more, because I want to hold myself accountable to it. And it's hard sometimes because I've had to say no, and it's hard. I'm an overcoming people pleaser, and I wanted to say yes to everything, and I wanted to help everybody, and I wanted to be everything and do everything. And it's like, you can't be everything to everybody, or you're just going to burn yourself out. And so I look at everything with energy, and it's not necessarily time. It's that, do I have the energy to do that? Mm-hmm. And it really helped me make some decisions. And I had to cancel 2 different retreats because I was like, oh no, I'm not going to have the energy to do that. And if I show up somewhere, I want to be able to have like a full battery, give 110%. I want to give, as much as I can. I don't want to show up and not be my best. And so I've really taken this whole rest and setting boundaries for myself, and with everything, with my work, with how much time I'm on social media, with time I'm away from my family. And that, I think rest is easier when you really know what your values are. And when you know what your values are, you can make decisions a lot easier, because you're going to go look, 5 days away for a retreat, but that means I won't see my daughter or spend time with my husband for 5 days. Nope, not worth it. Can't do it, so. But resting. I have an alarm on my phone. My alarm starts blinking and lighting up at 8:45 every night to alarm me. Grab your tea, get in the tub, time to start winding it down. And it's my reminder to get off of any devices, like shut down the office, because I love what I do, and I could work literally 24/7. So if I don't have these boundaries, I will. And that's not good. We have to have time for that rest and recovery. Our brains need it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Everything needs it, right? And so I see us as a holistic piece, right? So we're our bodies, we're our minds, and we're our spirit and our energy field, right? So if one of them is out of whack, then all of them are tanking out, right? Or they
Mm-hmm.
have to work harder. And you said it, you are now budgeting everything based upon energy, and everything's energy, right? So energy is your currency. And so
Energy is your currency for sure.
yeah,
And the reason I'm so like super focused on that now is because, so Sharon, since I've seen you, so we did the mastermind
yep,
together. So we were in Malibu, and I left from
was
Malibu
incredible.
to do an event in San Diego. Then I went to another event in North Carolina or Dallas, and I was in
Yep.
North Carolina. Then I came home and went straight to another event. It was just like boom, 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 like event, which I'm so grateful for.
Yes.
But then I was on crutches
Mm-hmm.
and still recovering. And so I look at everything as energy. How long will it take me to recover? And now that's because I have this disease called CRPS, which I'm grateful that, a lot of people that have it, they can't walk, they can't get out
Right.
of bed, depending on how
Yeah.
bad if it's the CRPS is spread. I have it in my right leg. And so when it gets so bad, I have to use crutches, and it's hard to go from walking or hiking to all of a sudden you're on crutches, and you get looks from people like, what's wrong with you? And I have to look at it as crutches. Yeah, it's not as fun as being able to walk on your own. They get in the way. It's sometimes harder to walk. I mean, I have to say I've gotten pretty good on them, to be honest with you. Like, I got the Canadian
Of
crutches.
course,
I can
of
move
course
on
you
those
have.
things.
There's nothing that you won't champion, which includes using the crutches.
No, well, you know what? I was really self-conscious about it. And I was telling my husband, like, oh, I don't want, my daughter keeps looking, saying, Mom, there's a place over there to sit. And some of the moms were looking at me like, oh, what's wrong with you? And I'm
Mm,
like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't, haven't they seen anybody on crutches before? And I thought, and my husband said, who cares what other people think? You need to take care of yourself. And I was like,
yeah.
you're right. And after he said that, it kind of shifted my perspective. And
Mhm.
I was running around at her horseback riding competition, and very much more like confident about being on them. And
Mm,
some lady looked at me and said, wow, you're really good on those things. And I thought, so much of what we do is how we carry ourselves, and it's the
right.
attitude we have about it. And I looked at those crutches as, these are what allows me to get from one part of this competition to the other part so fast and not miss out on any of the fun. And my daughter won first place. And I'm so glad I wasn't sitting at home having a
Yep.
pity party going, I can't walk today. Instead, I'm like, well, what can I do? I
Right.
can use the crutches. I can go cheer her on.
Yeah.
It's so much how we look at a situation.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. And part of that is, like you had mentioned earlier, we can't go back into the past and change what's happened. And there's nothing that we can do in this moment about the future, right? But you can do everything you can to enjoy now, right? And to be 100% present, 100% you, so that you can really enjoy those moments. Like you said, you would have missed being at this competition. Is Ruby going to do another competition? Yes. But that doesn't mean that that competition wasn't in that moment the most important thing to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go and give 100% of yourself and enjoy it as much as you could. And I think that that's so important. And that's such a thriving mindset, because I think that for me, what I encounter a lot in the work that I do is this kind of questioning, right? Which is, you would, to your point earlier, you had said, well, I'll be happy when, or I'll find joy when, when I can find the cure for CRPS, or when I can, when I can finally pay all my bills down, or when I finally can get that house that I know is, that I'm manifesting, or that partner, or maybe when anxiety isn't crippling me, or whatever it might be. Right. And really, the difference between and so we survive those moments, right? We get through it because we have no option. We're here, right? So we have no option. We're going to have some sort of a conflict getting through it, which is surviving it. But we can literally, with just working with our mind, we can literally go from surviving to thriving. Circumstances haven't changed, but how you look at it changes everything.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so much how you look at it. And also, I will say the thing that really allowed me to go from surviving and just being on survival mode and in constant fight or flight and just miserable, discontent, irritable was and from that to thriving was I had to really like be knocked over the head, hit rock bottom, and have a doctor tell me. And I went to the doctor and I said, you know what? This pain is too unbearable. I know you've done 34 surgeries to save my leg, and I'm so grateful for that, for you doing that. And I can't take this anymore. We need to just go ahead and cut my leg off. And he was like, that's not an option for you. You've got CRPS. This is the rest of your life. It could spread. It could get worse if you amputate your leg. At that moment, that was actually a gift to me, because it was like what shook me up and realized this is it. There are no other options with CRPS. There's no known cure. I've tried every medical treatment out there and nothing's worked. So it's up to me to find joy despite living with pain. Yeah. And it's not always easy, but it's possible. And I think that, it's the way that we look at it. And what helped me the most was just being in acceptance, like taking a good, hard look at my life and looking at my part and how I was making myself worse, which was I wasn't eating the right things. I'd always been pretty healthy, but I had to really look at what was causing more inflammation and what I was eating. I cut out alcohol. I started resting more. And I think, like you were saying, Sharon, it's mind, body, spirit. I set up a spiritual practice. I started going to recovery meetings. I got sober back in 2016. I started exercising. So transformation and thriving isn't just about, all of a sudden I'm just going to change my mindset and everything's great. It's like, I have to change my mindset daily, sometimes hourly, depending on what kind of a flare up I'm having with CRPS. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is get grateful. That changes everything. I mean, from little things to big things, from changing one word, from I have to I get to, from in the morning, starting this morning, I was so rushed and getting ready. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to be out the door. And my daughter's like, Mom, I need you to do my hair. Just me thinking, wow, I'm so grateful that my daughter still asked me to do her hair, that she trusts me to do her hair. I can even do my own hair, and she's asking me to do hers. And just being grateful for that, our relationship, instead of, oh, I don't have time, or going to school and being in traffic. I'm like, this is my most treasured time, is in the car with my daughter on the way to school and having that one-on-one conversation with her. Yes. And so there's a blessing, there's a lesson in every single thing that we go through. And I know sometimes the hardest moments of my life, and when I was crying last week because nothing was going right with this presentation, I learned a lot about, well, technology for one, always have a backup for another. But I learned things about my business, but I also learned things about myself in that moment, that I allowed someone to throw me off my game 5 minutes before I'm about to do the presentation. And I'm like, I know better. Like, I need to be focused on what I'm doing. And that goes to a lot of people, a lot of us who we know what our vision is and we know what we want to do. We just have to trust our gut, listen to our heart, and stand up for ourselves and use our healthy boundaries so that we can go after what we want to do and we can thrive.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that. I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself about the fact that everything that you're talking about isn't holding yourself up, saying, "Oh, I've got a problem. I'm going to go put myself in a cave," right? I'm going to go put another brick on the wall because I'm fragile. So I need to make sure that I protect myself. You're not creating walls around yourself. You're actually creating bridges. You're bridging yourself to other people, to connection, to yourself, to energy, to nourishment, to nurturing, right? And it's not, that is so challenging because that takes being authentic, being vulnerable, being open to change. And when you're dealing with the, significant pain, right? Which is on a daily basis, everything starts to ratchet back a little bit. You start to think, well, I don't want to put myself out there too much, or I can't give too much or whatever, because I'm not really sure what the pain's going to do or whatever. But when you build the bridge to connection, you're actually strengthening everything, right? Most people walk around lonely as they're going through their challenges. And that's one of the things that I've admired so much about you, is that as you're going through your own challenges, you actually bring people in closer to you, which is so beautiful.
Thank you for noticing that. I don't think we're meant to do hard things alone. I don't think we're meant to do anything alone, but I wasn't always that way. I was very closed off. I started isolating in my pain. I think pain has a way of isolating us. And now, some people might be listening and going, well, I don't have chronic pain or nerve pain, but pain's pain. We have emotional pain, physical pain. Pain is pain, and pain demands to be heard, or it will come out in everything to do. We can keep pushing it down, and it's like this spring that's going to just explode. And I think that for me, I still sometimes have a tendency to, I am in pain. I don't want to be touched. I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear anything. I want to come in my little office, in my cozy office, light some candles and leave me alone. But I know that leads me down not to a good path. It has led me down a road of drinking to try to numb out when I tried everything else. And I was like, oh, this kind of helps numb out the pain. And that worked until it didn't. The only thing that I feel like helps when I'm in a really difficult place is because, like I said, I've tried all kinds of medication. I've tried all kinds of treatments. What really helps is when you can connect with somebody who understands you and you know that they have gotten through that tough time. That gives you hope. So you are going to get through that too. And I appreciate you saying building a bridge, because I think that's how we all grow in every way, not just transformative, like spiritually or it's in our business. It's in every way, is by collaborating, by holding out our hand, by being shoulder to shoulder, by supporting each other, by leaning in, by helping. And I think that's how we thrive, is with community.
Yes, we do. We're all here for connection. We're literally built for connection. Our nervous systems are wired for connection. So why not choose that so that we can thrive, and you do it better than any other person that I know.
Oh, thank you. Well, I tell you what, we have the most amazing, our mastermind was amazing, wasn't it?
I know.
I
so
love
wonderful.
you. And I prayed about that, Sharon. And I said, please just give me just amazing, passionate, faith-filled people. And that was like, it was magical.
It was, it was, it was.
I love you and like all our tribe, I call our tribe, and talk about connection. And like you said, we've known each other. We met on Instagram. So I've had a lot of people go, well, I don't know how to build or connect. And let me tell you, I think the way that you start to build your connection in your community is you go out there and offer value. You see how you can be of service. You're nice to people genuinely from the heart.
Yes.
You see how you can help people. You be one of those people that people want to hear from. You be someone who gives a lot of energy, and help each other.
Yeah.
There's enough success, enough money, there's enough good, there's enough podcasts, there's enough YouTubes, there's enough shows and coaches and speakers and all of it and friends to go around. There's plenty, there's abundance. And the more we realize that there's such abundance and we're grateful for what we have, then we just keep getting more good in our life, more good people. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Our mastermind was wonderful. You were incredible during the entire thing, and everyone who we connected with as part of your mastermind. I mean, you that's why I said you are the person who does it the best, connecting and creating bridges. You are an incredible connector and you do it with such great heart. I am so grateful for our conversation today. And I just cannot thank you enough for all that you have been to me in my life. And,
I love you, Sharon.
I love you. Just their friendship is so valuable to me. And I'm so grateful for it. And everyone that, you have magnetized into your life. Now I get to choose to keep in my life as well. So it's just so it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
You're getting me all emotional. Oh,
I'm trying not to get misty.
I love seeing it. Like it makes my heart so full when I see you and other people building these bridges and connections from like the mastermind or someone that I've introduced you to, and I see you going off to do these big things together. That's magic. That I love that. That's what fills my heart is when I see people just, they're blowing up,
Yep.
I'm like, oh, that makes me so happy. So I'm so grateful for you. I love your show and I'm so honored to be on it. Thank you for having me. And, always here for you. And anybody reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Amberly Lago Motivation, or text me 818-214-7378. And you know what, Sharon, I have a downloadable book that talks about everything that we've gone over today. If they text me the word grit, you can have that downloadable book that'll help you really tap into your resilience and your joy. So
I love it.
Just text the word grit. And Sharon, thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming today. And I cannot wait. Hopefully you'll come back again after these next 6 months or so, because I know you've got a lot going on. And I can't wait to, have everybody see this episode. And thank you for just being you. And thank you for just your heart and continuing to do what you're doing. It's incredible. We need you. And we need more of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully you'll subscribe and come and visit us. And of course, take Amberly up on texting her as well as getting that downloadable book. Thank you again, Thrivers. And until the next time, peace and love, and we'll see you soon.